Okay, and I got to swap the heads around and do the intakes. So basically the same thing we just did. So now you get to see all the prep work. What we call setup. So first thing I do is get the heads rotated around to the intake. Put the intake pilots in. Grab them out of the pile up there. There's a whole bunch of them up here. Just grab them out of there. Of course they're in order, so I know which ones are which. They're pretty tight. I need a smaller one. Toss up on that. Pretty tight holes. These are 1/1000 smaller than the other ones. We're kind of running between and we can use either one. The difference is how far the pilot goes into the guide hole. So you see how the pilot is almost all the way in the guide there. These are about equal, the same size, so they should be equal. So the other way is the thing was up about this far up out of the guide, which is pretty far up. So it's kind of a toss-up in which way is better. I'm right about where I want to switch over, but I'm not sure if I do. I'm pretty close. Yeah. Let's try this bigger one. It's right there. Yeah. See, this one I like to go a little bit deeper. This one I like to be up a little higher. I'm kind of in between hole sizes here, so turned upside down. And I'm upside down. That'll confuse everybody. So now the higher the pilot sticks up, the more support you got on your cutter right here. Especially a short one like this has been cut way down. You can see I'm already too far past already, so it doesn't really matter. This one here, see it's not fully supported. But as I cut it down in there, it would become more supported. So I probably like it being more support than less, so I'll put the other one back in. Actually, we're kind of right in between. Go back to the standard ones I use. These are the more popular ones, but the guides are usually a little bit looser. For the kibble white valves, these are not kibble white valves, so they have different stem sizes. Remember, I set these with extra clearance too. Yeah, not even close. Loose. That one's tight. Good combo. Okay, the levels out. Gets the head square. So this makes the pilot perpendicular. You know, it's coming straight out of the guide, or it's in line with the guide, not perpendicular. Perpendicular go this way. So this is in line straight, so we make this here level so that this here levels up with this, because this machine is level. At least it's supposed to be. That's why they got a check-in pin here. So if you're in doubt, you check your machine, make sure it's level. See how it's level right there, and you turn it 90 degrees and it's level that way, see? Now this machine is adjustable. I can undo these locks here, and I can turn this, and I can rotate things side to side like this. Can't go front to rear like this, but I can go side to side like this. So that's for canted valve car motor stuff. So right now we're straight this way, but we're off this way. So what I got to do now is loosen this up here, these pinch bolts under here, and I'll rotate the head slightly until it lines up. Ideally the valve guides should be in line with each other, but they're usually not. So this one's not. So I loosen these up a little bit, but I still keep some torque on them. You come up here and hit the head. This needs to go this way. So this has a nice thick exhaust spigot, so we can hit on it pretty good without hurting it. Just light hits anyway. There we go. Only moved it enough. So you bring it back to center. Come back down here and torque it again. So now we're centered up this way. And we're centered that way. So that one's ready to go. Okay, this one here. Okay, this has a different error. So this one I'll have to recenter. I'm going to have to change this angle here between cuts, because these guys are at different angles the other way. And it's got about the same error this way. It's the same direction too. The heads are on the plate on opposite sides, that's why it's the opposite way, but it's the same air direction. It's pretty close there. Okay, so before I cut this seat, I'll have to adjust this. I'll have to tilt this more this way. Okay, so this one here is good. Double check. Looks good. Alright. Goes there. All stuff you gotta do before you do cut. At least you should. If you don't, you're gonna have problems. Sure you're in the right range, we are. Okay, now we gotta set our cutters. So these two are done. So now we take an intake, put it over here in your holder. We gotta line up our pointer. Pointer's right there. So the pointer, this is where the exhaust was. See, the exhaust is in a different location than the intake, because the intake's bigger, see. So we have to move the pointer out like this. Then we can slide the valve back a little bit until things line up. You want to put the pointer right where you want to hit on the valve face. So something close to that, but I gotta look a little better into the camera. I think I'm a little bit too big still, but it's close. And that's how you set it. Oh no, I'm way small actually. It's a little bit bigger. Okay. So I'm being a little conservative right now, but you see I move it out on the point there a little bit further. So you can see how it's right there on the edge a little bit, but still not all the way on the edge. Okay, now we got to take our cutter, which will be one of these up here, depending on which one I want to use. We have this one here, which is our number 10. Just a number right there. We can use this one, which is a number 9. The difference is what the angles of all these are. They're different. So this one here is more of a radius cutter. This one's more of a straight cut in. So depending on how much material you're going to have in here to cut to, determines what you want. If I use this one, it'll cut the throat a lot bigger. If I use this one here, it's going to be more of a radius. And this port's relatively small in here, so I think the radius might be a little bit better contour to follow than the more straight one. If you're doing more performance work, I usually use the more pointed one here. Do that. There's also a difference in the top. This one's more cuts into the head more, this one cuts into it less. So this being a real heavy Hemi right here, being less is going to help us. It won't dig in, it won't gouge out the cylinder as much. So, actually, which one has more? Actually, this one cuts in more than this one, I think. Yeah. Hard to tell. These are pretty equal. That one's almost even. And this one, yeah, they're both pretty even. The top cut's probably almost identical on these two. There's probably only about 5 degrees difference, or 10 degrees max, probably 5. Big difference on the inside. I'm going to use this one. I want to put a pointer right where the edge of the seat is. So I know. We're in 5/16. So we want the pointer to be right up on the edge of the seat. The inner seat's here, the outer seat's way up here. So you want to put the pointer right where you want to set at. You know where you're at. At least you think you know where you're at. Until you actually cut it and lap it, you don't know for sure where you're at. You only think where you're at. Usually I try to err on the inside, conservative side, than on the outer side. Okay, so I got this set where I want it to be. This slides up and down in here in an angle. So now we come over here and cut it. Now this one, I got to set this one also because we're bigger now. So I'm going to put this out here toward the outside edge, but not right on the edge. As I recall, I got to use this one here. This one here, I don't know if it goes small enough to use. It looks like it might just make it. Sportsters run a big valve compared to an Evo. Yep, we got enough room. Evos, you can't use this one. The two valves are too small. Okay, so I set the tip not quite to the edge, but right next to it. So that'll cut the top cut in the chamber. All stuff you need to do. Okay, I get to come over here. Try to get it where you can see. Easier said than done over here, because I can barely see. It's hard to see what you're doing over here. But what we're going to do is we're going to cut it out. That's what we're going to do. Put a little marking on the seat, you can kind of see where you're at a little better. That helps you cheat a little bit. There's the initial cut. So you can see how that leaves more of a radius in there, so it didn't cut into the chamber as much down the throat. And we're about 90% clean, but not quite all the way. Just a little pitting in there on this side. Right down there, there's a little pitting still. So it's enough to size it though. Excuse me. So I got to come back and cut this outer edge away. So I'm going to mark where I think the top of the seat is, which is right there. And I'll go ahead and cut the top away. Get that roughed in also. I'm going to use this big cutter for that. You can see how I cut this away right here to clear iron heads. Sometimes they hit right there, no they don't. Big cut. There was a lot of metal coming out. Oh yeah. Flow better though. Yeah. Okay, I'm going to lap a valve in. Grab a valve. Go ahead and mark it. This is the rear head. Put a big R on there for rear. Mark this one over here for front. There's a lapping compound right here. Don't need much, just a little bit. That's too much. That's all you really need. Even that's a lot. We don't need much on here. We're just doing initial marking. We're not trying to lap anything in. Just enough to put a mark on the valve. And on the seat so I can see what we're working with over here. So you look at where your lapping compound is. You can see a little bit of steel above the lap, so that's good. That means I'm not too high. If it's too high, I have to adjust the cutter and recut everything again, obviously. So you can see we're right up near the edge, but not quite on the edge. Take full advantage of the valve. And you can see how I back cut the valve from there behind it automatically before. So that's pretty good. Got the lapping compound off the head so you don't damage your cutter. Okay. So you look in there and see what you did. You can see how it's not an even cut lap right now because it's just chattering away and things are not quite concentric yet. They turned out pretty good. You can see how much metal we cut out of there. A lot of it came out. Just the other head over here. See its big lips and stuff in here. See the lips are gone. So now when the valve opens up, it's not going up a hole. It has to go up another 1/8 of an inch before the air gets out. It just, as soon as you open it up, it's flowing out. It's a lot of horsepower. So doing my valve jobs is basically like a full port job, just by doing the valve job. We're not even cutting the ports out. See that hump up in there? That needs to go away to make it flow. But there's lips and stuff inside of here need to come out to make it flow. There's a lot of this crap you cut out. A little bit, you knock that out, makes a big difference real quick. The rest of it, good enough. Don't take much to make big gains on these things. Everybody thinks you got to do a lot of work in there to make things better. You get probably 80% of everything you're going to get pretty quickly. That last 20 you got to work your ass off for. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and recut this now to smooth it up a little bit. Get a little better finish. So we're going to go ahead and cut it with this one. Nice and centered, hopefully. Let's see what we get. Go down until you don't get that real rough sounding grinding noise so much. That's what you're shooting for. Take a look at it. Looks a little shinier than it did before. The shinier it is, the less air you have. That means there's more clean metal. So anyway, down in there is what you're looking at. So right down there is where you're trying to get down to look at. So right in through here is where the edge you're trying to get nice and smooth. Now we got to come back and cut off the lip we just cut, and we went down a little deeper right here, so we got to cut this lip off. That's what the top cut does. You still see all the chatter marks in there still. That's why you have to lap it a little bit. It's also why things will wear themselves in, because right now you have a little bit of those chatter marks. They have to break in to get full seal. So that's part of breaking in your valve job. Things are never perfect. Just try to make them as close as you can. Difference in center. We move it around. Let's repeat it now. So I'm looking for that same mark I had before on the exhaust. Can't see squat. Side of a dark hole. Perfect. See my mark. Even though we're in a dark hole, we can still do good work. Okay, now we're going to lap the valve again, but this time for real. The difference of the two is not much. Just slightly longer. Slightly more lapping compound, but not much more. Just takes a little bit. You don't need a lot. Stupid TV guys, they put a 1/4 layer on there. Stupid. So you lift up, move it, drop, go back and forth. Move up, drop again. You don't want to do it in the same spot every time. You want to move it around a little bit. Alright, so there's our mark this time. So we'll wrap it, clean it up. Wipe it off your fingers. Should be a nice even gray mark all the way around. That's what we're shooting for. Looks pretty even. Location looks good too. Wipe this off. Should be a nice gray mark down there also. The gray mark all the way around. You can see that little shiny lip right mark right there that I had on the exhaust is on the intake. That's my indicator of the depth of the location. So everything looks good. Alright, so you can see the different flow between this one here and this one over here. Night and day difference. We do sacrifice some compression, but we gain a bunch of flow. That's more important than compression. Of course, with this shitty gas we got these days, lower compression is probably a plus. Okay, now I got to center this up because of a different angle. Looks good right there. Good too. Okay, so we already know our cutter set, so this is a little bit quicker now. So I'm going to come down and do the same thing. Do an initial cut, and we'll come back and do a second cut. Alright. Pretty heavy, like grinding noise there. Okay, that's our initial cut. Come out and knock off the high stuff now. Always make sure it clears before you do anything. Clears are expensive when you knock them off. Doesn't help the head any either. That one. Now we come in with our final pass. Definitely going to recenter because everything moved around a lot. Grinding noise in there. It's a hard spot in there somewhere. Looks like it's cutting evenly all the way around though. Alright. I think we're good already. Yep. We're already there. Yep, mark's already in there. Means I cut a little bit deeper the first time in an outer cut. That's good. Okay. Big difference. All different sizes. Doesn't feel much different. See how the seat's a lot further in than the other one? I think the valves are slightly different diameter or something. Weird. I think it's cut deep enough. Yeah, I got a full seat there. Alright, there's our gray mark going around. You see our shiny mark right here. Just a tick bigger than this one. Right there, it's below the seat, so it's fine. The seat's way down here. There you go, all the way around. Alright, so that's good. Loosen it up. Screwing with me. Alright, so now you can see actually what they look like. Float in real nice. Both of them. So there you go. That's how you do all that. Alright, next thing I gotta do a surface cut on these heads to clean up all this rough ass gasket surface. So get that in the milling machine. So I'll be doing that next probably. We'll be back.